happy late night intuitives. Had quite the drama today, which I will share with you tomorrow because I want to get to a video that this is like one of the last ones that I had planned for months ago when I was preoccupied and not making videos, and was thinking about it today, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what I want to say. So I want to get it out there now. Uh, I've talked in other videos about how INFJ males are, perhaps most in tune with their feminine attributes compared to men of other personality types. I want to do a little bit deeper dive into this. Essentially, this video is going to be how INFJ male fathers have a lot of maternal instincts, more so than men of other types. And the example I'm going to use for this argument is the fictional video game character of Harry Mason from the original Silent Hill, which was released on PlayStation 1 in 1999. And yes, I played it when it first came out because I'm that old. Although I arguably don't look it, although people say that all the time, but maybe they had an agenda. Maybe that agenda was a lie. So, Harry Mason, for those of you that are familiar with Silent Hill, the original one, the best one, by the way, he's the main character, he's the protagonist. Essentially, without going too deep into the game is you play as Harry Mason going through the isolated, nightmarish town of Silent Hill and its demon world component. You play as him. He's on a quest to fight through whatever he has to save his missing daughter Cheryl, who you later find out is not even his blood daughter, but a daughter he adopted when he and his late wife found her on the side of the road. What is known about Harry Mason is that he is a nonfiction writer. He is said to be very intelligent and introverted. While it's not outright stated he's an INFJ, given that I've played the game over and over again back in the day and I reviewed some of the stuff before this, he certainly comes off as an INFJ to me. A lot of the attributes are there. Again, if you're familiar with the game, make your own decision, but we do know from the creators that he is without a doubt an introvert. So, what makes this a little unique? Well, in this story, Harry Mason is a single father. As I said, his wife had passed away. It's said to be not long after they found Cheryl, their daughter, on the side of the road. So she was a baby, and in the game, she's 7. So presumably, I think looking back now, you said 4 years ago. So for 4 years from the time Cheryl was 3, it was just Harry and his daughter, and he never remarried. So he mentioned in the game how she was his whole world. Throughout the game, there are conversations Harry has that alludes to him being an INFJ and also alludes to his more maternal instincts. When you first encounter the fictional police officer character of Sybil Bennett, she warns him not to go out into the town, how dangerous it is, and Harry completely disregards that, saying, I have to find my daughter no matter what. She gives him a gun, which, just a side note, because I'm so nitpicky, I find it very odd and unrealistic, I know, in a video game, and at a game that takes place in 1983, that a police officer would be carrying a 9mm. In 1983, practically all police officers carried revolvers, so, just saying, because revolvers are awesome. Anyway, Harry, I always liked the character. We have the same style of dress. You turn his brown leather coat into a black leather coat, and everything else the same. Black t-shirt, jeans, biker boots. Harry and I dress alike, so I always like that. And it's when you play the game, it's like, damn, this dude runs weird. Well, if you never wore, heeled boots of that style, I have, and that's how you run in them, and it's quite awkward and not fun, especially if you have to run 2 miles to make it to a tow yard to get your car out of tow before it closes for the long Labor Day weekend. But enough about the first time I visited my friends in State College in 2005. So, Harry Mason, is this atypical single father figure. And it also shows how in this game, where most would think, well, be the mother that would be most protective, that would do anything for their child, the opposite is true in Silent Hill, because two other characters, Dahlia and Alessa Gillespie, are mother and daughter by blood. And you see throughout the whole game, uh, Dahlia exploiting her daughter to gain some sort of power. The ultimate expression of that her daughter is only an extension of her, a way for her to gain more power. In contrast, Harry sacrifices everything for his daughter, who is not even his blood. The game shows what family really means. The game shows that, sometimes a biological mother, what is said to be the most unbreakable bond between her and her child, is nothing but a cycle of abuse. And in the case of Harry and Cheryl, the strongest bond, the ideal parent, is that between uh, adoptive father and adoptive daughter. Harry is a good father. Dahlia is a terrible mother. Harry consistently shows what parenthood should be: selflessness, loving, and empathetic. And you see that, in the few examples that I've observed years ago with INFJ fathers. They do tend to be more empathetic and more open to obviously deep conversation and talking about deep emotional things than the typical man is. Certainly my father, non-judgmental to INFJ fathers, especially their bond with their daughters, would be one where they wouldn't judge them for doing things that most fathers would, like the idea of, the obvious reasons why some daughters get disowned by their fathers wouldn't come up really with an INFJ father's bond with a daughter. Although I'm not trying to say that INFJ fathers are just like mothers, because that protective, taking vengeance streak certainly still is there. That is one thing that I would assume would be terrifying if someone would ever hurt the daughter of an INFJ man. That man is coming for you with everything he has, with a fury that cannot be stopped. It would take a small army to cut him down. Certainly, if I was in that situation. So, Harry Mason serves as a perfect subversion of traditional roles in society, again, because he is the man who will do anything for his daughter. He's a single father, and this is an adoptive daughter. And this is interesting to note how atypical this is, because in the film adaptation in 2006, the director purposely changed the main character, Harry Mason, into a woman on the basis of a man would never go that far for his child, and they just didn't believe it, see it as believable. So that's another thing that, Harry Mason, this INFJ man who's a single father, has to take on both aspects of, mother and father for Cheryl, and it's something that's rarely seen in the world. I've seen the reverse. I've seen, uh, typically speaking of one of the women that I went through the fire academy with in Arlington, who straight up said like she had to be both the mother and father to her son, and that pushed her to get through the fire academy when it was quite strenuous for her. I mean, academically she was awesome, but the physical challenges were quite much for her, in part due to her admission of she didn't go to the gym and did not prepare for the academy like she should have. And I just want to make a note that the difficulty was not mostly due to her being a female, because the other female recruit, who I was actually partnered with, was able to keep up with the boys no problem. Now, granted, she was an ex-professional basketball player and roughly the same size as me, but it wasn't a male-female thing. Just wanted that to add. So throughout the game, Harry shows that he'll do anything to rescue Cheryl. He'll face any danger, put himself through any challenge. Even the nightmare world of Silent Hill, filled with monsters, would not slow him down. His quest to solve these puzzles, to face any fear, any danger, any peril, and to seek help from those maybe not trustworthy, face huge monsters, kept going. There was no way he was turning back. Harry Mason was going to save Cheryl or die trying. No police officer, nurse, doctor with a gun was going to stop him. He was on a mission, and he kind of did succeed in the canonical ending. He defeats the monster that was incubating in Cheryl and Alessa, because their two souls split. And his daughter, though, just another part of Alessa. Again, I'm not trying to get too deep into Silent Hill lore. At the end, he's given Heather another baby, another split soul of Alessa to raise, and that there shows again Harry's devotion to Cheryl, that even the daughter he knew, loved, and raised was gone. This new baby that just manifested, Heather, was now, was a piece of Cheryl, though not Cheryl herself, and he simply took the baby in his arms and was able to escape the nightmare world and live the rest of his life essentially on the run and in hiding from members of the cult that took place in Silent Hill. And it shows just how far Harry would go as a parent, too. It shows further his INFJ-ness. As I said, it's not known and also unlikely that he ever sought another relationship. His devotion to his daughter was his whole world. They lived on the run. He kept her safe. He even killed other people from the cult that pursued them. And while it's one thing to kill monsters, it's another thing to kill a human being. And this was outside the town of Silent Hill. So, this introverted INFJ nonfiction writer lost the love of his life, presumably when his wife died, had just recently adopted a daughter who then became his whole world, who then he took on the more maternal aspects of his personality and made her the priority in his life, not his career, not his seeking other women in his life, but simply his bond between him and his adopted daughter. As I said, in general, INFJ men tend to be more empathetic, more caring, more understanding than the average typical man is. And we are dealing with stereotypes here, but there's really no other way to explain this. And it is important to note how, in those instances, that the INFJ man is not the typical parent, certainly not the typical father. I don't think I explained this quite as well as I wanted to, but I wanted to use the story of Harry Mason as an example because it's a very well-known video game, and certainly if you're of my age range, you heard of it, probably played it at some point. So I hope this video makes sense, gives, though not too in-depth, an example of how sometimes, particularly with INFJs, these, we subvert the standard cultural norms of our gender, as we're very much in tune with the other side of our personality, being the male female aspect. Like the tarot card, the lovers would be very would be a very good representation of an INFJ, because the lovers card, while called the lovers and having a male and a female and an angel, is actually not about love. It's about balance of your male and female aspects, which I think Harry Mason as a father is a very good example of. I hope this video made sense. I'm really tired. I went through a lot today. I'll tell you tomorrow, I promise. Remember, INFJ men, trust your intuition with how you parent. If you are a parent, I'm not, but do what you feel is right, and do not bend to whatever societal norms are. Go with your intuition, same as we do with everything else. If there's somebody you have feelings for, go for it. Don't worry about what other people are saying. Don't judge somebody based on reputation, or if it's somebody that the status quo wants you with or not. Trust your intuition about your feelings to that person. And don't sell out your integrity to, quote, be normal, be yourself, and do things that you feel is the right thing to do, not what other people would do, because they're not you.